Hey guys, I hope you guys are doing amazing wherever you are in the world. My name is Shikha and I welcome you to the Millionaire Hippie podcast. In this episode, I wanted to speak to you guys about time and how time is actually really malleable and interchangeable depending on how you think of it. You guys already know this probably if you've ever read anything to do with quantum physics, that time is not linear. It doesn't run in the fashion that we think it runs in. It doesn't go from 1 minute to the next minute to the next minute. It's not like that in reality. If you look at it, it actually runs all at the same time. Everything that we know of and everything that we are and everything we've done and everything that has happened in the world is all happening at once. It's all happening in one moment. Now, of course, as a human being, even right now, just speaking about it, it's very hard for me to visualize that because as human beings, we're so limited in our thinking and our capacities. And so all I can imagine is time moving one by one by one, like a second after second after second, right? I can't really imagine it running all at once. It doesn't make any sense to me. Like, the more I think about it, the more I confuse myself, right? But I have been thinking about this a lot, and I noticed that time is very malleable and very, very changeable depending on what you think about it. For example, you guys have probably had this kind of experience that when you are doing something that you really, really care about, something that you're really interested in, time seems to move by really fast, and time passes by so quickly. You're like, wow, really? Is it already dinner time? Or the other way around, where you're doing something that you despise, or if you're working at a job that you don't like, or if you're hanging out with a person that you don't like, then you know that time seems to move very slowly, and it seems to be as if it's never going to end, right? The time with them. I know that I used to watch the clock when I was at work before, when I worked a full-time job, and it would take forever for 5 o'clock to come around. And it was such a pain because the last 40 minutes or the last hour seemed to take eons to pass by, right? That's the reason I really left from my 9 to 5 job, is because I hated that waiting, that wanting for time to pass by. I was thinking to myself, what is this? What kind of a life am I leading where I'm constantly wanting time to pass by without doing anything useful with it? It didn't seem like a good use of my time. I realized, as everyone realizes, that we have a limited amount of time on this planet, right? But I don't want you guys to think that way when you're moving through the world. I don't want you to think that, we have a limited time, so we should feel like we have to hurry through things, or we have to feel like we don't have enough of time. Because what happens is that when you start thinking in that regard, when you start thinking, oh my God, I don't have enough time, I have so much to do, I don't have enough time to finish everything, oh my God, I'm never going to get it done with everything, that kind of energy gets transmitted to time. Now, I'm not saying that time is a living entity exactly. I don't think it has a brain or a heart or anything like that. I don't know really. But I feel like time is malleable and changeable. And so it depends on our thinking, and our minds can manipulate time. Now, a lot of us do it unconsciously, obviously, right? We don't actually think about it, and we're in love, so time moves by really slowly or really fast, or we're with a person we dislike, so time moves by really fast or slow, depending on the person. And so we're all already moving time faster or slower than it actually is moving, right? If you think about it, when you're meditating, a lot of times you'll be sitting there and you're meditating, and 15 minutes passes by like it was a minute. And sometimes you're sitting there and an hour passes by, and or like it feels like an hour, but it's only been 5 minutes, or it's only been a minute, right? So that happens to us as well, but this is all happening unconsciously. We're manipulating time. We're manipulating the time in our head because time only exists in our head. If you think about it that way, because time doesn't really exist outwardly. If you look at quantum physics, it means that there is no backwards and forwards of time. All of time exists all at once. So reality of the matter is that we're creating time in our head. We're creating time in our minds. And so we can create time to be what we want it to be, right? So what I do, and what I've started doing, is that whenever I wake up in the morning, I always tell myself I have a lot of time in the world. I have all the time in the world. Time is moving backwards for me. I have so much time to do everything that I want and more. And I'm constantly telling myself this, especially when I feel like, oh my God, I have so much to do, I don't have enough time. Especially when I start feeling that stress of not having enough time, I I always console myself saying there is all the time in the world. I have all the time in the world. I have so much time to do everything that I want. I don't need to worry about time. I have more time than anything else. I have more time than anyone else on the planet. I have more time to do whatever I want and more. And I'm always telling myself these phrases, always repeating these kind of mantras to myself, especially when I feel harried, especially when I feel, oh my God, I don't have enough time, right? I constantly try to move myself back. I'm trying to move the needle of time in my head mentally, and thus move the needle of time outwardly as well. And I do notice a big difference in my mentality and in the way time moves when I think about time differently. So on those days where I don't repeat these mantras to myself, I do have some of those days, and I'm like, oh my God, I have so much to do, and not enough time, la la. So I get worried about that kind of stuff, and I notice that time moves by faster. And yes, I don't have enough time to finish all the things I need to do, right? But other days when I am a little bit better and I'm a little bit calmer, I notice that the slower I move and the more I tell myself, I have so much time. I have all the time in the world to do whatever I want. The more I tell myself that, I notice that I have more time. In fact, I have so much time that I'll finish all of the work I have to do. Even if I have 1,000 things on my plate, I'll finish all of it within a couple of hours, and then I'll have the rest of the day to sit around and chill out, which doesn't happen when I think, oh my God, I don't have enough time, right? And so I'm not doing anything really. I don't think I'm doing anything in reality, because time for everyone else is probably just moving as it does, right? But for me specifically, because I'm thinking about time differently, because I'm thinking of it as an energy system, I'm thinking of it as something malleable, something manipulatable. It is, you can manipulate time. Otherwise, if you couldn't, then time wouldn't move faster or slower depending on the situation. It wouldn't, right? Maybe it's just a mental thing, but it still matters. And we have the capability or the capacity to manipulate time. Now, I'm not saying that this works every single time. Sometimes I do feel like I don't have enough time, and no matter what I tell myself, I don't have enough time, right? And sometimes I am able to manipulate time, and I'm surprised that I'm able to do it. For example, if I'm late for a flight, and it happened recently where I was like, oh my God, I don't think I'm going to make it for my flight. I had two connections, and I had a connection, and I had to catch a flight, and there wasn't enough time to catch the next flight, and I was worried that I was going to miss it. But I constantly, as I was standing in line, waiting through security, doing all those things, I constantly kept on telling myself, I'm going to reach there exactly on time. I'm going to reach to the gate exactly on time. I'm going to reach there exactly on time. I'm going to catch the flight. There's going to be no problems at all. Even though I was feeling a little anxious about it, I kept on telling myself this over and over and over again. I have enough time, nothing to worry about. I'm going to get to the flight exactly on time. And I did. I got to the flight, to the boarding gate, exactly when they started announcing that they're going to start boarding. It was perfectly timed, and I had enough time to go to the washroom and come back as well, which is insane, considering that I didn't have enough time in my head to catch the flight. And if you looked at it from the outside in, I really didn't have that much time to catch the flight, right? But these are the kind of things that kind of constantly give me evidence in my own head that time is manipulatable. It is not static. It is not linear. It doesn't just sit there waiting for us to do things. It doesn't move on its own accord. We are the ones who manipulate it. We are the ones who look at it and are able to change it according to our needs, desires, and hopes, and all of that stuff, right? So if you have the capacity to do this, if you have the inclination, or if you believe in it, or if you can induce yourself to take a chance or a risk on time, then I would recommend that you guys use the tips that I've given you in this video and try to manipulate time as much as possible. It's really, really easy. It's not that hard. It just requires a little bit of mental acuity and a little bit of concentration, and you can do it as well. It's really, really easy, and you will be able to manipulate time as well. Okay, so I hope this makes sense to you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for being on my podcast. If you guys have any questions at all, please message me anytime. I'll talk to you guys in the next episode. Bye for now.